Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered the difference between values and beliefs? Boom, stick around. What's up, Giants?
What's up?
Uh, Lovely Facebook still has us just doing YouTube, but we like YouTube now. We're becoming big fans of YouTube.
Yeah. Just before we get going here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. That way you get
Bling.
notified when we go live.
Is
And
that how it sounds? I don't even know. Does it?
yeah, it's got to be something along those lines. I think it's pretty accurate.
They should make it so that you could make your own custom sound when you do subscribe.
It's a burp. Bleh. Bleh.
Burp the bell.
Burp the bell.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, well,
It
we got
might be early still.
topics, man. So
I'm excited about the topic.
I put together this.
You've got a slideshow?
I got a slideshow a little bit. I don't even know if you can see it, but I'll explain it. I'll go through it.
Sweet.
I'm going to get rid of our faces here so we can zoom in a little bit.
I would.
Man, so I've been thinking about this a lot because we look at values and beliefs and morals and ethics and all these words that are used openly, but to really fully dive in and understand what they mean collectively, what we've decided they mean collectively, is really important. A lot of this is pulled from research, just looking through what we've discovered about the brain and how it works and why we make the choices that we do based on values and beliefs. And the simple definition of a value is what you hold as important. And so when you're looking at brain power, your attention is one of the most valuable resources that you have. And so when you're looking at what you're going to give your attention to, you're going to give it to one thing at a time. Your ability to switch back and forth between multiple things, giving your attention to multiple things, we call that multitasking. But the reality is you're giving attention to one thing at a time. And so your brain is trying constantly to automate that whole process because of the costliness of attention. Because when you're focused in on something, you don't have attention for other things. And so there's a high cost to attention. And so you start to create these values of things that are important in your life. And globally, they interviewed 500,000 people. I'll post the link here in the comments so you guys can go through and read it. It's really interesting. Let me just put it as a banner here. You hear my dog in the background. I'm going to leave that up for a minute.
Hi, Tater.
The number one thing that people value globally is family. Number two is relationships. Then it goes on to financial security, belonging, community, personal growth, loyalty. These are things that we think are worth something. So the word value, going back to the etymology of it, is worth. It comes from the word valor, worth. It's what we hold as important in our lives. And then what we go into is our truths around those values. So what do you believe about family? What do you hold as a truth around family? So when we're looking at core values, our core values are those things that are the most valuable, most important to us. Those are our core values. And this is an individual journey I want to talk about here because there's cultural values and then there's individual. And we're talking about individual here. So you start to create a series of truths around those important things. Like, I believe this about family. I believe this about relationship. I believe this about money. And then those are the things that we hold true or hold dear. So the word belief comes from the Glauben, Germanic Glauben, which means to hold dear. So your truths are the things that you're holding dear, and they're relative. And people talk about truths as though they have the truth. And then they go and put that on other people, and everybody else has the truth. And then there's this conflict because the truth is different for everybody. So there's like this universal truth that everybody's expected to believe, quote unquote, but everybody has differing views. And then you might have collectives and groups that have similar views, but you put them together and they both have the truth and they end up fighting about it because what they hold as dear is different from what the other holds as dear. So there's this loss of respect for beliefs. And so you go into beliefs and you start to add emotion to those, and that's called a moral. A moral is the mood that you put toward a truth and a belief, and that creates your affect. So ethics comes from the word ethos, which is a combination, it's a collective of morals. So it's the morals of the group. So ethics is the morals of the group. It's how we feel about the truths that we've decided as a group are true. And so that creates our affect. Our affect is how we show up in the world, our attitude, our mood, our emotions. And then that affect affects what we perceive in the world, because now from the affect, we decide not only what's valuable, but what we're willing to pay for that value. I have subscriptions like crazy. I've decided that those are automatic and worth it. And I hear my dog every time I get on the phone, he wants to choke on his tail. I don't know what the deal is. Chases it in circles. You'd never know, but I'm going to point it out just for
he's got his beliefs, Nick.
I swear, every time he hears
his
me go
values.
live, he's like, "Oh, it's tail time."
Yeah.
Anyway, it's funny because the crazy thing about all of this is that we all get to decide what we hold as valuable, what's important to us. We don't get to decide that for other people. Now, collectively, we might come to an agreement that we all agree that that's valuable. But if somebody doesn't, we don't get to impose that on them, force that on them. And we have this tendency to obligate, not inspire. And so we take our values and we obligate others to follow those values. You need to have the same values I do. You need to have the same truths I do. You need to have the same morals that I do. And each of us gets to go through that respective journey and decide for ourselves what we hold as moral, what we hold as belief, what we hold as valuable. Now, there are some things that can impact others. So you don't just go around killing people. That could impact others. So that you might have a belief that that's okay, but somebody else is going to come along and say, "Hey, that's not okay." And so we're learning to balance, not only ourselves but our interaction with others, and that's where the ethics comes in. And so what happens is you create perceptions of the world. There was a Nobel Prize laureate or winner that he said that the experience that you have is what did he call it here? Let me see if I can zoom in on this so I can see it. It's the remembered present. So if you look at all your memories and experiences in your history, you draw from those so that you can automate all this stuff. And so you go into your history and you have a trigger or event in the environment and you automate it so that you don't have to put too much attention in it. It's like having a subscription. So going back to that idea, I have all these subscriptions. I don't even think about it. I sign up for them and they go automatically. I allow the space for them to take money out of my account, some of my attention, if that were the analogy, and there's no question about it. It's automatic. There's other things that I have to look at it and say, do I want to put my money toward that? That's how we treat attention. Is it important enough for me? Do I believe it will create the outcome I want? Am I willing to put the money into it? If so, then I do it, but it's not automatic. It doesn't hold the space for automation. And so this idea of a subscription-based mind is that we have certain things in our lives that get a pass-through automatically because we've created the memory, the value, the belief that it's important enough that it can have our attention whenever it needs automatically and without question. Where if something else comes in, then we have to deliberate and sit with it and compare it to our values and get it in alignment with our beliefs. And then we'll spend the attention on it. And so our perceptions, what happens is we take an event in the environment and it comes in and we have those automatic perceptions. And then we have the costly perceptions, the attention. And so we create our perception of reality based on the remembered past. We pull that in and create the remembered present. So we're not acting on what is actually happening in our environment. We're taking what's occurring, the event, and adding to it our history, and that's causing it to create our reality as we see it, and confirms our values, confirms our beliefs, confirms our morals, confirms our perceptions. And so we tend to create these echo rooms where all we see is what's in agreement with what we believe is true or what we hold as important.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me clear this out so we talk this
I think
through.
it's interesting because you've got this big diagram of like that flow, but
Yeah,
your brain does it just like boom, you
boom.
know?
Yep. And so when you're looking at shifting your life and you've lived your life a certain way, you've got this history and you've got these values that you hold as dear and you've lived that way, you were taught that way, you've brought yourself up that way. And then something new comes into your environment, there is going to be a conflict because you've got your values that you're bumping up against, your beliefs that you're bumping up against. And so for you to transform from an old way of thinking, an old value system to a new one, it's going to take some consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive consciousness. Consciousness, if we define it in the scientific terms, is still unclear. It's that thing behind all of it, behind all the physics, behind all the atoms, everything. It permeates everything. But cognitive consciousness, in that term, if we use it that way, simply means that we're aware of what's going in our world. We're bringing it from the unconsciousness to the consciousness. We're aware of it. We hold space for it to be there. So we give grace to it. We give it acceptance. We have sadness for what's not there. And then we work to transform it. We step into the uncertainty, the unknown. And we go through, like scientists do, we do our hypothetical hypotheses. We test it. We predict out what's going to happen. We go test it. And then from that, we gain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then we create a new value system, new beliefs, new perceptions, morals, all of it. Now, we do this so automatically, like you said, we don't slow down enough to really be with our value systems and our beliefs to check them and test them and question them and create something even more powerful. You know, we just say that's the way it is, and then we look for confirmation in the world. That's what happens. So here's what I'm saying with all of this. While we do have collective values like family, relationships, money, things like that, they're still subjective and they're relative. That means they're different for every person.
Mm-hmm.
So to go out there and say that every person has to see the world the way we see it is inaccurate. They don't. I mean, people in China might care about social standing. In America, we do as well, but not as much. But in Africa, they don't care about that. Right. So to say that it's a collective truth, that's unfair.
Mm.
Does that make sense? It's not like there's the truth. There is a truth.
Mm-hmm.
So what's coming up?
I was thinking about, like being able to like coming to another level of consciousness is where you don't have to necessarily agree with like everything that they believe in, but to be able to see things from their lens, hold space for that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's it.
find and then find. I mean, even going a step further is finding the things where you can align. It's so much easier because that's a harder thing to do, is to slow that down and break it down and look at that person differently. If you could learn to do that
Yeah.
versus what we're really good at is instantly judging
Yeah.
or finding all the things, the reasons why that person doesn't align with us, and then cutting them off or shutting them down or this or that or
Yeah.
the other. And it doesn't mean we have to agree. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with that other people do, but I've been learning and working on looking at that person differently and saying, okay, so why do they believe that way? What is their thinking? What was their upbringing? Who is this person? How can I love them? How can I, do something different to be able to find the common ground?
Yeah. So what is their remembered present, right? Like
Yeah.
you're bringing all of that history and plugging it into their experience and creating what is, right?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And as I've done that, what I've found is relationships strengthen. Is that I can see that person for the giant, right, that they are, the way that they're being.
So I want you to take it a step further, and I'm going to spend a minute on this because this cycle is an internal cycle that when we do this for ourselves, it feeds out and nourishes the whole.
Mm.
So when we slow down with our values and really bring them to the surface and look at what we hold as important, and then we look at our truths and look at what we hold as important, and those truths, those beliefs can be useful and unuseful. We might have beliefs about money, things that we hold as true about money. We might value money, but we might have a belief that it's impossible to get, that only the wealthy have it, that, it's not for me, that's hard to come by. That's a belief. So you could have that truth sitting in there ruling your life.
Mm.
And then you start to create morals and moods and attitudes and affects around that belief. And then you go out, and when something comes into your space and you have an event that's bringing you money and you perceive it as negative, bad, you're going to reject it, and it's going to confirm your values, your beliefs, and I don't
Yep.
care if it's money or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're going out there and you're seeing the world not as it is. Going back to Stephen Covey, you're seeing it as you are. You see it as you are being, and your way of being goes back to your values and your beliefs and your history, because that all becomes your history. That's what you store in there. So when there's a new experience, you can draw from that to create the remembered present. And so this isn't just about us being in touch with other people and understanding them. This is about us shifting ourselves in such a way that we make sure that the values and beliefs that we're holding on to are serving us so that we can go out into the world and serve others. It's not
Beautiful.
about in groups and out groups. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like it.
Anything else you want to say around that?
I wish I would create beautiful diagrams.
See, I hear a value and a belief around that.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm going to create one right now.
You have the capacity. I want to say one more thing, actually. The human brain is incredible. 86 billion neurons, 2 to 3 times that amount in glial cells, support cells, astrocytes, dendrocyte, or microglia, oligodendrocytes, right? That you could literally be anything in this world. Any human that you see out there has a similar brain system to yours, nearly the same number of neurons and the same capacity for glial cells and support cells. It is not your capacity that's at play. It's your beliefs about your capacity. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said, I don't have the brain for that. Well, fuck, then I don't have the brain for that. I did drop the F bomb here. We're going to beat that out. Well, then I don't, right?
You're that passionate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's untrue. Collectively, it's untrue. Your brain is similar to others. There's a story of a girl who had half of her brain removed and went on to college, graduated, got married, lived a fairly normal life, right? But she had half a brain. So you're telling me that she doesn't have the brain for it? And then you come and your brain is whole and you're telling me you don't have the brain for it? Like, I don't believe it. Why do you believe it? So go back in and question it. And what can you change about it? So that's what I want to empower people is, yeah, stop limiting yourself based on the beliefs that you're holding as true, because they might not be. That's my soapbox for today.
It was a great soapbox too, and I can see the passion behind it and the desperately wanting people to see what you see, so that they can grow, and the love that's in your heart. Nick the Gentle Giant speaks again and speaks the truth. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks, man. All
Yeah,
right, guys, make it a giant day. Thanks for being a part of this. See you in the next video.
love you too.